Guys, here we are going to learn about division of fractions within a word problem. Yesterday we talked about using that reciprocal, so I want you to remember that we only use the reciprocal when we are dividing, okay? So when we're dividing is when we use the reciprocal. You're not going to use it if you're just if the problem's a multiplication problem, okay? So this first problem says the average adult horse needs 2/5 bales of hay each day to meet dietary requirements. The horse farm has 44 bales of hay. Okay, it wants to know how many horses can be fed in one day with 44 bales of hay. Okay, so we know that the average adult horse, so that's one horse, right, needs 2/5. Now, 2/5. Guys, this is a fancy way to write a fraction. I actually didn't make my word problems in the right program, so it only does the fractions this way. I want you to continue to write your fractions this way. So this is no, this is yes, okay? But they're the same. So I want to ask you first, how are we going to solve this? What are we starting with? I noticed that I have 44 total bales of hay, right? And when I start with a total, that's my sign that I'm going to use division, okay? And so I'm going to start with a picture on these because it helps me visualize what I'm doing, okay? So this is my hay. And in here I have 44 bales of hay, okay? And I know that each horse can take 2/5 bale of hay. So I'm going to say this horse, right, this is one horse, takes 2/5 bales of hay. Two horses would take this much. I want to know how many horses can I feed. So I'm going to skip. So what I don't know is down here. How many horses, right? So my question mark, or my unknown, is how many horses. So when I look at this picture, I see that I'm starting with a total of 44, and I'm dividing it by the fraction 2/5, and that's going to give me my answer, okay? So in order to solve that picture is like super huge. Guys, remember while you're doing this, while you're listening, I want you to do this as well. I want you to model the picture, write the original division equation, just like this, and now we can use the reciprocal to solve. So remember, the first number is going to stay the same. We're going to keep it. Okay? We're going to keep this first number. We're going to change the sign, okay, to multiplication, and then we're going to use the reciprocal of this second number. Remember, the reciprocal is just flip, okay? And now I can solve. Remember, with a whole number, you add 1 on the bottom, okay? Couple things. I'm going to multiply my numerators times my numerators. I don't know that right off the top of my head, so I'm going to do a side math problem, which gets me 220. So I have 220 over 1 times 2, which is 2. Okay, what do we call that? Well, that's an improper fraction, and I have to fix that. I have to convert it, and in order to do that, I'm going to do 220 divided by 2. There's 1, 2 here. I have 0. Bring down my 2. There's 1. Bring down 0. I bring down the 0. How many 2's are in 0? 0, which gets me to nothing left over. So how many horses can I feed? I can feed 110 horses with 44 bales of hay. Okay, so that's problem number 1. Lots of work, but what I want you to have on yours is a picture, the original division word problem, and then using the reciprocal to multiply, okay? So let's try number 2. All right, so it says here that a piece of licorice is to be cut into 10 equal-sized pieces. If the length of the piece of licorice is 2/3 yard, how long will each piece of licorice be? Okay, so we know some stuff here. we know that we're cutting some licorice into 10 pieces, okay? And we know that my licorice that I have is 2/3 of a yard. And so I'm trying to find how long will each piece of licorice be. Now guys, here's why I want you to start with a picture. Because my first instinct is to say, well, I'm dividing 10 because it's a whole number. But if you think about it, if this is my piece of licorice, how long is the piece of licorice? We'll go back into the problem. What did it say? It's 2/3 of a yard. Okay, so this right here is 2/3 of a yard. And what am I doing to that piece of licorice? I'm cutting it into 10 equal sized pieces. Let's make sure that's 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so I'm taking 2/3 and I'm dividing it into 10 pieces. So what do I not know? I don't know how big each piece is. Okay, so right away that tells me I started with a total of 2/3. That was my licorice. I'm going to divide that total into 10 smaller licorice pieces, and I want to know how big each piece is, how long each piece will be. Okay, that's my unknown. Okay, well, if we go by what we learned yesterday using the reciprocal, if I have a whole number, right, that's 10/1. So I'm going to keep my first number. Remember, this is keep. Then I'm going to change my sign. And then I'm going to flip my second number. So then it becomes 1/10. Well, if I solve this, multiply my numerators, 2, multiply my denominators, 30, I get 2/30. Okay? I'm going to slide that over here because 2/30 can be simplified. 2 and 30 are both even, so I know I can divide by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 30 divided by 2 is 15. So I know that each licorice piece is going to be 1/15 of a yard long. Okay? All right, so let's try number 2. Not number 2, number 3. All right, guys, so remember, as you're listening to me work through these word problems, you can pause, you can rewind, you want to be taking notes as you go, because you want to, when you're done with this video, you're going to have notes that you can add to your folder, okay? So this problem is talking about sunflower seeds. It says Melissa has 2/3 pound of sunflower seeds. So 2/3 is not even a pound, okay? It's less than 1. Each day she feeds the cardinals in her yard 1/6 pound of seeds. Okay, so she feeds them an even less amount. It wants to know how many days will she be able to feed the cardinals. Okay, so if I start with a picture, I know, what does she start with? Melissa has what? Well, she has 2/3, right? So this whole amount here is her sunflower seeds. 2/3 pound. Each day she feeds the birds 1/6 of a pound. Okay? And that's just like one day, right? And then on day 2 she feeds 1/6 of a pound. But we want to know how many days, right? We know this is 1/6, we know this is 1/6, but we don't know how many days it is. So our question mark goes up here because we're trying to find days, right? These are our days. And it says how many days will she be able to feed the cardinals if this is how much birdseed she has. So right away we know, because I started with a total, that I'm going to divide. And when you're dividing, the total always comes first. Okay, so you want to remember that. The total comes first in division, right? Because we're going to learn later, but you should know this already. Order matters when we're in division, right? Order matters. The total has to be first because that's what I'm splitting up, okay? So 2/3 divided by 1/6, because that's what she's using, okay? And so then we're trying to find this, which is going to be days, right? We don't know how many days that will last. So we do know that instead of dividing, I can actually use the reciprocal to multiply. So I'm going to keep my first fraction, right? We're going to change the sign, and then we're going to flip the second fraction, which is 6 over 1, okay? Now, 2 times 6 is, that's right, 12, and 3 times 1 is 3. Ooh, fancy. I don't even know how that happened, but I do have an improper fraction. I have 12, okay, that's really weird. I have 12 over 3. Well, guys, if I simplify that, right, that's 12 divided by 3. Well, how many 3's are in 12? We get 4. So that makes sense, right, that she can take 4 days to feed the birds, okay, the pretty cardinals. Here, I'll draw a bird for you. The birds are so excited to eat the sunflower seeds. See, that's the bird smiling and eating. Oh, here's its feather. Yay for birds. Okay, last problem. A box of snack-sized cracker packs weighs 28 1/2 ounces. Each snack pack weighs 4 3/4 ounces. It wants to know how many snack packs are in the bag. That's hard to say, snack packs. Snack packs. I can't say it very good. So what do we have in here? Well, we have the whole box, right? Because it says the whole box. The giant box of snack packs weighs 28 1/2 ounces. Then it tells me that each pack within the box weighs 4 3/4 ounces. So I want to know how many packs are in the box. Well, I'm going to start, just think about this, start with your model. What's the total amount? Well, go back to the problem. We know that they had a total of 28 1/2, okay? And then we know that each pack, so that tells me each, I'm dividing there because I know that this pack, oh, I didn't make that big enough, hold on, to write the number. Okay, so this pack is 4 3/4 ounces. That's pack 1, right? And then I'm trying to find, so these little dots, they're called ellipses. It just tells me I know I'm going to go on, but I don't know how many, right? Because this is my unknown. So I know that whatever I have in here, because it's division and each group is equal, this is going to be my unknown. I don't know how many packs, okay? So again, with division, what comes first? Total comes first. So what do we know the total of the big box is? Well, we know that it's 28 1/2 ounces, and we're dividing it by each pack, which is 4 3/4 ounces, and we're going to get a question mark, which is going to tell me how many packs I have, okay? All right, well, here's what we hate, right? We don't like these mixed numbers, okay? So before I can do anything, before I use the reciprocal, I have to make these improper, okay? So in order to do that, we're going to go around the world. I'm going to use a different color pen. And around the world, remember, you start at your denominator, and you're going to go around, and you're going to multiply. Well, 28 times 2, I'm going to come over here and do myself a little bit of math. And I know that that is 56, okay? And then I know that 56 plus 1 is 57, okay? I'm going to finish up around the world, and 2 becomes my denominator, okay? And I'm going to keep my problem because we're not done yet. So then I'm going to come over here, another mixed number. I can't use it unless I change it. So 4 times 4 is 16, plus 3 gives me what? 19. If I finish up around the world, I know that my denominator is going to be 4. Okay? Now I have my improper fractions. Now I can change this problem to a multiplication problem because it's going to work like this. Remember, you keep the first one. I'm going to move down a little bit so we have some more space. Beep, 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 beep. Okay, so now I'm going to keep my first fraction, okay? 57 halves, okay? I'm going to change my sign to multiply. and then I'm going to use the reciprocal of 19/4, which becomes 4 over 19, okay? And now I can multiply. Well, 57 times 4, again, I don't know that, so I'm going to come over here. I know that 4 times 7 is 28. 4 times 5 is 20, plus 2 is 22. Okay, so I know that I have 228. And I know on my bottom, 2 times 19, just so that I'm safe, is 38. Right? Yeah. 38. Okay? Now, when I'm dividing, okay, so when I'm dividing, what I get, I'm going to erase this, is that I see that I have 228 divided by 38, okay? Now, some of us kind of panic when I see these big numbers, but remember, I can try to make a simpler problem. I know that 38 is close to 40, and I know that 228 is really close to 200. So to get me a starting place, I can say that there's about 5 40s in 200, okay? And that gives me a place to start. So then if I know that 5, I can come over here and say, well, 38 times 5 is 190. Okay, so that's going to be a little too small. So I'm going to try 6, okay? Because I know I can add another 40, and I would get So I'm going to go up to 6 because I think 6 is going to give me the right answer because 190 was too small. So I know that 6 times 8 is 48. And I know that 6 times 3 is 18 plus 4 is going to be 22. And that goes in perfectly, which gives me an answer of 6. Oh my gosh, I did it again. 6 packs. Okay? Now, I'm going to show you something. So if you feel good, that's great. I'm going to erase this, and I'm going to show you what I would do to help with my math to make the numbers less big. So if I'm here, I have 57 halves times 4 19ths. So all I did was just take this original problem. We can do something that's called cross-simplifying, okay? Where I can go and I can look diagonal like this, okay? And I can see what these two numbers have in common. Well, I know 2 and 4 have 2 in common. So if I divide by 2, this becomes 1. And I can divide this by 2, and it becomes 2. This makes my math, the numbers smaller, right? So now I have 57 times 2, which is 114. And I have 19 times 1, which is 19, okay? And so I can then do an easier division problem. 114 divided by 19 is going to be 6. Okay, it's going to give you the same thing. 9 times 6, 6 times 9, sorry, 54, plus 5 is going to be 11. Okay, so it just makes an easier math problem. Don't do this if it confuses you, but if you're like, oh man, that's awesome, you can try it, okay? Because it will help make you have to do less difficult division. Okay? So division word problems. Now, in order to get credit for listening to this video, you have to tell Miss Stiegel when you walk up to her, what comes first in division? We will see you soon.